But I'm here to talk about tools for building large games. That was a placeholder I'd put in like a few months ago. I'm proactive, but then I was like, the terminology that we've been using that Dave was using earlier today about immersion and expansiveness and deep gameplay, that's become part of the vernacular for our team over and over again. So I figured I would have wanted expansive, but they'd printed stuff already. So I'm just changing my slides. My name is Ravi Akella. I am the director of product for Studio. Apparently some of you use it. What's that? Yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been at Roblox for 13 months, almost to the day today. That might explain why I have a weird Roblox name. I'll come to that in about 30 seconds. I wanted a better name, but you guys all took the better names, the people who came before me. And this has been, by far, I think, the best work I've done in my career. And the reason for that is of all of you, because we collectively are able to touch hundreds of millions of people. Prior to Roblox, I was at this company called Autodesk for about 12 years. I was a product manager for 3D modeling tools like Autodesk Inventor. They had cloud collaboration tools. And at one point, I was working on AutoCAD. Yes, they're used by millions of people, but the impact that you can make as a community with Roblox is so enormous that I'm just happy to be part of this group. And hopefully, I'm going to warn all my friends who want to get on Roblox to get their usernames now. I'll explain why my username is QMasterman. I like it, but it's inspired by a certain movie that has a fictional British Secret Service agent. I'm not going to use his name, but he has got a friend called Q. And what Q does is he makes tools and gadgets for the fictional British Secret Service agent to do amazing and daring things. So my entire career has been about making tools, and so I wanted to be Q. Q stands for quartermaster. It's also a military rank of people who supply the troops. Quartermaster was taken. Q-master was taken. Q-master man, because there's a crazy man 32 builder man. That's how I ended up a Q-master man. So as Dave was saying, if the president of the United States, whoever it is, wants to get a Roblox username, they should get it now. Or it'll be like POTUS123456 or something, which would be sad. So that's where my username comes from, and I'm glad to be here. Actually, my avatar kind of looks like that guy too. When I grow up, I want to be like that guy. All right, so as a product person, I wanted to kind of talk about why we're building tools for large and immersive worlds, and then talk about what's happening on the platform itself, some information about the places. It was a history lesson for me because I'm relatively new. It might be like walking down memory lane for all of you. And then I wanted to talk about what are we doing to kind of accelerate the size of teams that we have on Roblox that are, a different scale of team than professional game studios, allowing those size teams to produce deep immersive experiences really, really fast in like half the time, right? One of the things that Dave mentioned that has been a driving factor for a lot of teams at Roblox, the engine guys and studio as well, is the fact that as a group, the community as well as Roblox, we need to start appealing to an older player. People shouldn't be aging out of Roblox because they as players, because they hit a certain age. And in order to do that, we have to create deep immersive experiences. These experiences are not only going to test your games as well as the platform on things like scale, but also complexity and content density. So I'm going to talk about scale, building really large worlds and some of the tooling we're doing there. I'm going to talk about putting a lot of stuff into this giant canvas that you can create in Roblox now, and how you don't do tedious, repetitive work when you have thousands of copies of something to fill up these worlds that you're creating. And then I'm going to talk about deeper gameplay, and which obviously means like people making non-obvious, interesting decisions for extended periods of time, which likely appeals to an older player as well. Obviously, that requires a lot of code. So how would you work on creating code together? Adam, in the product keynote, kind of mentioned it as team create with more bells and whistles on it. I'm going to talk about it in a little more detail. So being able to do collaborative code editing inside a studio. And all of this is going to follow some principles that I inherited when I joined Roblox. I'm going to explain some of those along the way as well, because that's how we think about some of these features we built in Studio. So after we're done here, I'm going to have plenty of time for the rest of the day. You can find us directly or through our developer relations team. But hopefully I can explain how we make some of these decisions as we move forward. So, memory lane. How many people have been on Roblox for over 10 years? All right, so for you, this might be memory lane, because I was actually like, for me, this was a very informative history lesson. And I spent some time with Shedletsky yesterday, even though I couldn't finish the conversation. He's such a celebrity, to make sure that some of my details were accurate. And if they're not, and you're like, oh, that was not right, then please find me later and let me know. So, who remembers this? Who played this? All right, excellent. So, Shedletsky built it. So 80, 90% of it, apparently Dave contributed as well. That is Crossroads. At the time, it was considered massive. It is a massive 400 studs by 400 studs, 4 sections. It didn't have team gameplay in its first release. And obviously, you can go to Roblox today and go to classic Crossroads and still play it. Since then, it's gotten filter enabled, a lot more complex gameplay, team interactions as well. But that's where Roblox started. That was circa 2006 is when the first version came out. And I confirmed that last night. All right, so let's turn the clock forward. So this is 2008-ish, 2009. Does anybody remember this? All right, okay. This is like 4 times larger than Crossroads, right? We're talking 800 studs by 800 studs. I was reading the description of this just to educate myself on the history of the platform. And the term that was used, like second word in the description, was gigantic, right? Gigantic place, 8 bases. This was obviously building focused, this was the direction in which Roblox was headed, right? The ability to use tamper tools to build, create your bases, and move from there. So this was, and one of the things obviously this had, and this might connect to Matthew Dean's talk earlier today, Saranok's talk, was that they had persistence. You could actually build your base and save it way before we had data stores or something like that, which came in 2014, according to my research. All right, so who remembers this? We've turned the clock forward now, 2015-ish, 2016-ish? Yeah, I'm assuming people are playing this now. All right, so what is this? Lumber Tycoon. We're talking about another order of magnitude, 6,000 some studs, many different areas to explore, the volcano, the maze, the taiga, and a lot more interesting things to do, right? So go and buy your little axe, go and cut some wood, take it to the magic, what is it called, conveyor belt, where you can get more money, buy more stuff, right? So we're getting now to what looks like a deep experience in the more modern sense. And that finally brings me to this game. Has anybody tried out the beta? All right, so this game went into production or deep development right around the time that I started at Roblox, so about a year and a month or 2 ago. And this obviously is a testament to the team that is building it and their imagination, but also what is possible on the platform today, right? The ambitions are full MMORPG when it comes to Vesteria. And when I was doing the research, they have a team of people that's working together, but they also have many multiples of contractors who are working with them on this game. So some of the tooling that I'm going to talk about kind of takes into account this model of how people are coming together on the platform as well. So one question here, how many people here are on teams? All right, it's about half the room. How many people here want to find more teammates? Because I was seeing the Adopt Me flyers and stuff. Exactly, all right. So I'll show you some of the statistics that we can look at as the studio team on what's happening and how the developers, all of you, are coming together to build the successful games on the platform, right? So every month, we're building a lot of features to support teams. So we have to validate for ourselves, like, is this a phenomenon that's growing on the platform, right? So every month we look at the statistics, and if we look at just a snapshot of the top 100 games on the platform by playtime, you will see that as of February, the majority of games were still made by one developer, as far as we can tell. Obviously, we can't track contractors if it's completely off platform, right? But in front of our eyes, in a matter of months, that distribution is changing. It goes up from month to month, but that distribution is changing. So if you're part of a team and you're looking to form a team, this is the direction in which the entire community is going, right? So it behooves us to kind of start supporting teams and building tooling for it. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. The other thing that's happening, and I think Dave mentioned this earlier as well, is why are we doing all of this, as I mentioned before? Because we want to appeal to a larger demographic. If you guys have seen some of or older demographics, so if you guys have seen some of the coverage Roblox has had over the last few months, we've hit liftoff on not only the size of our player community, right? Nice big round number. Have you guys seen this? All right. But if you see the distribution of the demographics of this, that was the interesting data point for me. So the blue represents 13 plus players. As you can see, it's growing faster, right? So all the reasons for us to make deep immersive experiences, they're coming together. The places are getting more complex and large. People are forming teams because that's the manpower you need to actually create such experiences, and it's reflecting itself in the players themselves as the number grows. So what are we doing about it? I'm going to talk about some tooling that we're doing here to kind of create these large experiences for teams. And this presentation was given a few hours ago in London, and apparently people expressed emotion there, even though this is the technical track. So if you guys find something exciting, please express your emotions. It's completely fine. All right? Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is terrain. Right, so I was just talking to Steven, who did the talk, Crazy Man 32, right before me, and I was like, oh, next year we need to talk together, right? Because the idea of creating extremely large terrain really quickly, plus putting procedural vegetation on top of it, that is a killer idea. So maybe I'll be here back next year or somebody else to kind of talk about that. But with terrain, bigger is better, so we were talking about bigger and better, right? So to be able to create really large, expansive terrain, this is kind of like the canvas that the entire experience sits on top of, but also to create a lot of complexity and different kinds of biomes and materials in that terrain itself. So what have we done around that? So in about 3 days, I was going to say this week, but it's still Saturday, so next week, we will release a height map and color map importer in Studio, right? And what that does is that allows you to bring in images and create terrain out of it, right? And this terrain can be put anywhere in the world, so you can set the origins. And so if you can create a bunch of contiguous terrain, you can create really large places, all right? And I'm going to show you exactly how it works. You can also set like explicit sizes for it, and it produces millions of voxels in a matter of seconds, right? So it's extremely fast. And we've optimized it for 4096 voxels by 4096 voxels. Each voxel is 4 studs. So that is enormous, based on the scale we were talking about. So this is what it looks like. You got the images inside of Studio. They're in the Game Explorer. You go open the height map, color map importer. You select the height map, and there you go. You have your terrain, right? So that looks like barren terrain. Obviously, it doesn't have the materials assigned to it. So then you go pick the color map that assigns the materials, and that's it. This is not sped up. When I have sped up videos, I'll let you guys know. All right. And then you can go change parameters on it, and then it'll change the height, right? Because you change the depth, the number of voxels in the y direction. And that's what it looks like. Would you guys use this? All right, so some emotion. There you go. Unfortunately, the team that built it is not here, but I will express it back because my Slack was blowing up from the reactions in London. So we'll let them know. All right, so what are we doing next? I didn't realize TM meant like maybe not gonna happen. I'm serious about the coming soon here, all right? And this is in kind of like chronological order of what we're thinking about. I actually have some examples. I'm still getting used to Roblox culture, so like please help me out. All right, So flatten. People have always talked about the fact, in the conversations that I've been having, that they want completely flat terrain, right? If you have really large terrain, you want to have flat sections where you put asphalt, you create towns, you create roads. So we have tools now to flatten terrain, create perfectly flat terrain. Obviously, if you have really large terrain, you want to be able to efficiently modify it, so larger brushes, that seems obvious. You want to be able to modify it in more interesting ways that you could do before instead of just spheres and cubes. So we have a cylindrical brush. And then you want to be able to set a y coordinate and just fill it up with water. And then drain it out. And then fix underwater stuff. And then fill it up again. All right. Okay, so because flatten is on the top, we're working on it right now. I have a working demo. This is not tooled up yet. This is just the code running, but it allows you to flatten mountains. It allows you to raise valleys. You can set it to a plane. You can set it to a y coordinate, and it works like any other brush, right? So you can increase it with scale. Once you have larger brushes, that'll work for flatten as well. All right? Cool. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is, okay, you got this giant canvas, which is your terrain, and you want to fill it up with stuff. When you fill it up with stuff, you're likely creating copies of something, not creating thousands and thousands of unique instances, right? So an instance is a loaded word. Thousands and thousands of things, let's say that, all right? So you want to follow the rational philosophy of not repeating yourself, because if you want to make a change, you want to make a change to one of those things and have it cascade all over, right? Not only on all your places, but maybe across universes as well. So in order to do that, we introduced something called packages. And I was talking to a bunch of folks last night during the party, and they're like, isn't packages still in beta? It's not. It's been live for months, and what it allows you to do is, we're going to have another feature that shows up. It's going to be called What's New. So in a couple of weeks, when you open Studio, on the top right, there'll be a very subtle blue thing that says, here's what's new in Studio, right? So that people know things are out of beta, all right? Okay. So let's come back to packages. So what does it allow you to do? It allows you to take any instance in the place, a script, model, whatever you want to do, and turn it into a package. A package is a linked cloud-saved entity that you can put then in any of your universes or any of your places, all right? So once you've done that, you can auto-update. So for individual copies of that package, you can go to the place and say, I want this to auto-update every time that package gets versioned. Or you can go to a universe and say, I want to update all the packages in all the places in this universe in one fell swoop, okay? So imagine doing that for vehicles, for weapons, for buildings, for scripts. And these are, like I said, they are account level, so you can use them across multiple games. They're not limited to a single universe. So this is how it works. This one is sped up, the video. You have a vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and convert it into a package, and it gets saved to the cloud. All right, after that, you create a couple of copies of that vehicle and just put them right there. You go to the package link in those copies and you say auto update. And then you come back to the original package copy and you change the color, and don't blink. You change the color, and then you go update the package, so you're versioning it in the cloud, and the other ones just update. All right? Now, you create a giant array of these vehicles. None of them are set to auto-update. You pick any of those package copies. You go ahead and change the color again. This is a simple example. This time, when you go version the package, all the other ones will get like a green icon next to them in the Explorer, which means there are new updates available. You go to the package at the universe level. You go say update all, and it updates the package across all the places. This one shows just one place, across all the places in the universe in one fell swoop. All right? You think you guys could use that? It is not in beta, so please use it. Please give us feedback. We're watching the forums like hawks. All right, so what are we doing next? We talked about the fact that teams like Vesteria, they have a certain number of active members, but they have many multiples of people who are contracting with them, right? So if you want to contract with somebody and ask them to write you a script or create a model for you, one of the things you could do is you could give them permissions just for a package. So we're building permissions for packages, and there are going to be two tiers. One is you can view and use the package, and the other is that you can edit the package. So imagine if you have a contractor, you create a test place, you put a package there, they have permissions to edit the package in the test place, and you have a copy of that package in your production place. They don't have access to your production place, just that package, right? They create it. When you've tested it in the test place, you just mass update in your production place, right? Is that a useful scenario? All right, next thing, packages are reusable things, right? So people might say, oh, I have a vehicle, I have a weapon, but I want to like have settings on it, just like Studio has settings, right? Dark theme, light theme. So we're thinking about configurable packages. So what that would do is you'd have that vehicle, but you could have different colors for that vehicle. You could have different wheels for that vehicle. And the end consumer of the package will have a set of options that they can pick from, right? So those would be configurable packages. Again, the part of the package that is not included in the configurations can still be mass updated or auto updated across all of the copies of it. And the last thing we're thinking of is, okay, now packages are these different entities that people are working on. You're just the consumer. You might want release notes on a version, right? You want to know who versioned this and what is different about this version. So just advanced version comments, right? To be able to say, this is what it does, like, monster truck version, and you'll be able to do that. So these are some of the, like in classic Roblox style, we have a vision of things being linked into the place and being independently versioned and modular, being reused, being shared, being collaborated upon. But these are the kind of iterations that we're going to work on. And at every step, if you guys want to give us feedback that allows us to course correct, right? We're not going to like, swallow the whole thing in one go in case we got something wrong. So we're releasing it incrementally. If you have feedback, you guys should let us know. Use it as quickly as possible. Just use it in a dummy place and let us know what your feedback is. All right? So the next thing I want to talk about is teamwork. So again, one of the things about why Studio is, and the tools that Roblox creates are easy to use. This is me like analyzing, the product and the platform itself. Having been here, is ease of use comes from two things. One is integration. Things are all integrated together. If you look at Studio, you can create 3D models. You can write code. You can build physics constraints. You can playtest. You can publish, all from one product, right? That is built into the Roblox DNA. The other thing is where we can automate things, we automate things. So if you have to think about people writing code together, we have to apply those same kind of philosophies that have been true for Roblox all along the way. In the past, the collaboration, or currently, the collaboration paradigm that we have is team create. It works really well for building, but does not meet all the use cases for scripting. So we started focusing on, okay, this is our working principles. This is what team create does. How can we extend that to meet that use case? But one of the things that is going to come out of those principles is collaboration is a feature of Studio itself. It's a feature of the editor. It's not a separate thing you set up as a server, and then you have to use files back and forth in order to manage them. It just happens inside of Studio itself. That's the first thing we want to do. The second thing is when you're collaborating on code, you want to have focus, right? You don't, like, even though people are, have asked me the example even twice today of like, is it like Google Docs? Like, you don't want somebody to be typing while you're typing, right? What you want is to be able to work on your scripts in isolation. You want to be able to test the scripts in isolation, and when you're ready, you push it up back to the place so it affects everybody else. But while you are working on those scripts, somebody else could be working on those scripts as well. So what happens when you push back? You need conflict resolution and merging, right? So just because it's built in doesn't mean you have to throw away all the industry standard paradigms. What we can do is find the best of the Roblox philosophy married to how people write code, okay? So the way it would work, and a quick recognition of the way things are today is with Team Create today, you can have one active editor on a script, right? Everybody else is locked out. Have people seen this? Right? Okay. So what happens is the person who's editing the script just closes the script, hits the X, and automatically it gets applied to the place, right? There is no explicit apply, right? While the script is open though, if you're playtesting, if you do play solo, it will take what's in the script. But as soon as you close the script, it's already been applied. And there's no history, right? So I've talked to so many teams in the last year where they're like, yeah, somebody changed something. and broke something. And then what happened? Well, I was spending 3 hours trying to figure out who changed what, okay? So basic things that we can change. So what is the first iteration? In classic style, we know our vision is that it's built in, that allows you to focus, it allows you to test before you push, it gives you awareness. One of the things about being connected is that, unlike other collaboration solutions, with Roblox Studio and Team Create, you know when somebody's doing something, right? So what's the best way to avoid conflicts? You go talk to them before the conflict happens, right? So you will have awareness built into it, and eventually you'll be able to know who changed what when, so that you can roll things back. So first version, no locking of scripts, none, right? We unlock the lock and throw away the key. So what does that mean? It means anybody can edit any script in a place at any time. But they can work in isolation, right? So you're making your changes in the script, you can test your scripts in isolation, and when you're ready, you push it back into the place. If one of your teammates was working on the same script, and there's conflicts between your changes and theirs, you'll have merge and conflict resolution tools, okay? So what does that look like? This almost looks like a demo of PowerPoint, but the way it'll look like is, Team Create today, right? You get the nice little colored bubble when somebody's doing something. So on the script, you will see that there's multiple color bubbles. You guys see that? So multiple people are editing the script at the same time. You have awareness that somebody's doing something. You have a couple of options. You can be like, hey, what are you doing, right? Or you can just keep doing what you're doing, test your changes, and deal with the conflict resolution later. So where does this stuff go though? Like when I'm editing a script, where does my work in progress script go? It goes into a new widget. It's called drafts. So all your scripts that you're working on, before you're ready to push into the place, sit in your drafts, right? And you can test your drafts. When you hit play solo, it'll pull up the scripts from your drafts, and you can test that. And when you're ready, you push it back up. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Okay, so what do we have left to do then? So the next iteration in this is who changed what and when, right? So the next iteration in this, which is a few months out, so the unlocking of the scripts, a few weeks out. The history, a few months out. But one of the things then we'll be able to do is say for each script, who changed what when, and then you'll have the ability to roll back either one script or multiple scripts at the same time. All right? This sound familiar, but it's just built in. So what is the long-term future for this? If we're going to look at built-in collaboration in Studio and these games are made of more than just scripts, right? The problem in going with external solutions is they manage script really well, but we have to manage collaboration for everything in a place. So the long-term future is that we have this sort of asynchronous collaboration for every kind of instance, which means we're currently tackling with the really cognitive overload generating situations of how do we handle 3D merge, right? When two 3D objects changed. How do we handle changes in hierarchy in models if the hierarchy of a model changed? So those are some of the things that we're working on, but this sets up the base for how collaboration will look like in Studio going forward. Do you think you guys will use that? You're feeling some emotion about it? All right.